All right, welcome to part 5 of technical debt, an approach to start the year. We have talked about the definition of technical debt, some examples and where it comes from. We have been through an inventory technique that can really help you bare your soul, but do remember, keep your list private. Don't share it out there for publication. We have talked about a strategy for when your personal load might mean it's absolutely time to work on technical debt, when enhancement requests means it's time to work on technical debt, and when release schedules dictate that you have to stop and deal with some technical debt. We have looked at a real world example and how reports, flows, and dashboards help clearing technical debt and monitor your progress. And now we're going to talk about governance. Every Salesforce organization is different. Salesforce uses one piece of software in theory, but we all configure it differently. And so every organization is unique. And how an organization gets configured is the governance of it. And in large organizations, there might be a governance committee that meets every week and makes decisions. In a small organization like mine, there is no governance committee, and I just fly by the seat of my pants, perhaps. But I have a governance log. Let's take a look at the ideas here. Governance committee has to decide how to configure Salesforce, when to build custom objects, when to turn on features, when to turn off features, and so on. And we've already talked about governance may be ad hoc. It may be because the executive director says, by golly, this is how it's going to be. Or it may be because you decide that. Or it may be because the board of directors decides you're going to start using Salesforce to track a certain type of program. But those are all decisions, and they should end up in your governance log. It's especially important when it's not official and it's spread all over the place. Let me show you my governance log. Nothing magic about it, not even fancy, nor is it complete, but it does help me. So here is the Simon Salesforce governance log. And I have made some entries already in it for Spring 21. Spring 21 is not out, but I have already looked through the release notes and decided what is important in the release to us and what's not. I've got 10 items here and 4 others, and I'm gonna have to look through those items to see if, when they come out, to see if I have to enable them, configure them, and I also have to go through the release notes and make sure nothing else broke that requires configuration. So I'm sort of ready. The next entry here is something that I did just yesterday. It's the fixing of that donor advised fund reporting problem. We now have adopted a data entry standard for DAF transactions. And I have transmitted this to the person who does the data entry, and I will adhere to it. And I built a flow that helps know there's one right way to do it. Perhaps in the future, I will build a report that detects if we're doing it wrong in any ways. But that decision has been logged. Back on the 15th of January, I configured gift entry. We moved from batch gift entry of NPSP to gift entry. That tool's been out for nearly a year and we hadn't used it, and I decided it was time. Prior to that, at the end of December, as a preparatory step, we configured the NPSP data import advanced mapping configuration. And I didn't do much other than we're going to. All we actually did was convert it. We did no new configuration, but I did note in this log some technical debt that was created. We have some customization around the NPSP data import tool that can now be retired in favor of the more standard feature, but I didn't do that work. So that went here and will eventually be transferred to the technical debt categories and retired eventually when we do some NPSP data import configuration work. Here is the things that I did after the Spring 20 release, and it just goes backwards and backwards and backwards. And you can start from scratch. I didn't start this document. We were doing a slightly different way. I started this document in summer and it's already got 8 entries. You can get really detailed here, or you can keep it kind of high level as I have mostly here. So that's governance, and you really ought to start a governance log. And if it turns out you can't decide, you can invite someone else to help you make a governance decision and then record it. You'll be really glad you do this. So next up in our presentation comes a little dashboard that I like to teach people to make that shows how big you are, because every governance committee ends up making decisions based on how big you are, and you might as well have the real data at hand. So thanks very much. I'll be back with the next part.